Richard was 34, but he was afraid of bees. He had a reason for it. Once when he was a kid, a group of bees had struck him. Years had passed, but he was still afraid of bees. One day, he was looking for his favorite shirt at home. He was surprised when he found his shirt in the closet. There were many bees in the closet. He closed the closet. He did not want to wear that shirt anymore. A few days later, Richard's son, Joey, was crying. He had lost his toy. Richard knew that his son's toy was in the closet, and he was afraid to open the closet. But he opened the closet. The bees were still there. Richard took his son's toy. He took his favorite shirt too. Fortunately, the bees did not touch him. Sunny and Jack were playing together. Sunny had a collection of toys and Jack had cookies. Sunny told Jack that he will give him all his toys in exchange for his cookies. Jack agreed. Sunny kept the biggest, the most pretty toy aside and gave the rest to Jack. But Jack gave him all his cookies as he promised. That night, Jack slept well, but Sunny could not sleep. He was thinking, if Jack also had hidden some of his cookies from him, the way he had hidden his best toy. Jimmy's parents were not at home. He was bored, so he decided to go and watch a football match. He left his dog Spike in the house. A few minutes after Jimmy had left, a thief entered the house through the window. After entering the house, he started searching the rooms. He took all the valuables, but when he was about to leave, he saw Spike in front of him. The dog was about to jump on the thief when Jimmy returned home. He asked Spike to calm down and called the police. Jerry and Emma are husband and wife and they like to watch movies, but they never like the same movies. Emma likes horror movies, Jerry likes comedy movies. Emma hates comedy movies and she thinks they are silly and boring. One day they decided to go to the cinema. Emma wanted to see the new horror movie, but Jerry wanted to see a comedy movie. In the end, they could not agree on the subject and decided to not go to the cinema and instead visit their friends. Finally, they both agreed on this, but when they went to their friend's house, their friends were not home. Again, Jerry and Emma decided to go to the cinema, but when they were there, tickets to both films were sold out. Once taking a night stroll, Michael saw fire coming out of his neighbor's house. He shouted, "Fire, fire," but there was nobody to hear his shouts. Michael called the fire department. Then he tried to get into the house. Somehow, he managed to get into the house and rescued a cat that was there. The fire was spreading into other rooms also, but fortunately the firemen arrived. The firemen soon put out the fire. John was a very naughty boy. He was very fond of chocolates. One day he went to his neighbor's and his neighbor gave him some chocolates to eat. He felt very happy, quickly ate up all of them and wanted more chocolates. The neighbor got angry and said that she had no more chocolates left. Then John pointed out a box in a cupboard and asked, "Then what is there in that box?" "The box is filled with insects," replied the neighbor. Later that day, on getting an opportunity, John ate up all the chocolates in the box and filled it with many insects. One day, two friends were returning from work. They saw a man who was limping. One of them said that probably the man have been born like that. The other one said, "No, I think he have probably met with an accident." They both started arguing over the matter. The argument got so heated up that finally friends decided to ask the man the reason for his limping to see who is actually right. They first hesitated, But then they did it. They approached the man and asked the question. After hearing the question, the man started laughing and replied that he was limping just because one of his shoes was broken. It was a cold and windy night. My friend and I had met after a long time and we were already chatting for hours. We did not notice the time passing by and it was already night. We decided to take a taxi and go to my house. It had started raining, but finally a taxi stopped for us. The driver asked us where we wanted to go and we told him the place. Without asking anything about the fare, he said, "Get in the car." Since it was very cold, I asked the driver to stop at a restaurant. We wanted to drink a cup of hot tea. The driver stopped near a small restaurant. We ordered tea and asked the driver to join us. The driver refused. I insisted, but he refused again. I was really surprised at his behavior, but did not insist anymore. In 15 minutes, we reached my house. We paid the fare and the driver thanked us. In the end, I asked the driver why he refused to drink tea with us at the restaurant. He thought for a moment and replied that it's his son's birthday tomorrow, but he does not have enough money to buy him a present. This is why he does not have appetite to eat or drink anything. We both became upset and offered him more money for his taxi service. He politely refused. Then he said, "Thank you very much, but in 1 or 2 hours I will have 1 or 2 more customers and earn the money I need." And he left. We were both amazed at that man's will.
Robert was a young and smart student, but he did not have enough money to pay his rent. Instead of paying his landlord, he used to work for him at home. Once, a landlord's friend came to his house. The landlord called Robert and asked him to bring his binocular. Robert quickly went to the landlord's room and brought the binocular. After the friend left, the landlord called Robert and scolded, "You should have asked me which binocular to bring, the one from England or the one from America. It would show how rich I am." Robert became upset and nodded his head. But he had a little plan. A few days passed and another friend of the landlord came to visit his house. The friend saw a lion skin on the floor and asked the landlord who had hunted the animal. The landlord said that his had hunted the animal when he was young. The landlord then called Robert and asked him to bring his father's photograph. At this moment Robert asked a question, "Which one, sir? One of England or one of America?" One beautiful spring morning, a merchant loaded his donkey with bags of salt. They were going to the market to sell the salt. They reached a river on the way. Unfortunately, the donkey slipped and fell into the river. Donkey noticed that the bags of salt loaded on his back had become lighter. Their merchant had to return home. He again loaded his donkey with bags of salt. When they reached the slippery riverbank, the donkey again fell into the river, but this time deliberately. Thus the salt was wasted again. By now the merchant knew the donkey's trick. He wanted to teach the animal a lesson. When he returned home the second time, he loaded bags full of sponges on donkey's back. When reaching the river, the donkey deliberately fell into the water again. But now, instead of the load becoming lighter, it became heavier. The donkey could not fool the man this time. A rich man's son was graduating university. For months, the son was asking his father for a new car. He knew that his father had enough money. When graduation day came, his father called him to his room. The father gave him a wrap gift and congratulated him. Son became upset. He opened the gift and saw a journal with his name written on it. Young man became angry and left the room. Years passed. The young man had not seen his father since graduation day. One day he received a letter that his father had died, and he had to return home for the funeral. When he returned home, he began searching through his father's important documents and saw that the journal was still there. He opened the journal, and when he flipped through the pages, a car key dropped from the back of the journal to the ground.
A long time ago, there was a city named Troy. The city was very rich and had great treasures inside its huge walls. Hearing the stories about the wealth that existed in Troy, the Greek king decided to take his army there to steal the gold. Hundreds of warships, filled with thousands of Greek soldiers, sailed to Troy to try to conquer the city. but the Trojans, spotting the invasion attempts, locked the doors of their huge fortress. No matter what the Greeks tried to do, they could not get in. The Greeks tried everything for years, but it was just impossible to break in. Suddenly, one morning, the Greek army had disappeared. The Trojans looked everywhere, but no Greek soldier was around. Suddenly, they stumbled upon a huge wooden horse. The Trojans all gathered up around the horse. They thought that this was a gift from the Greeks to congratulate their victory. They said, "Let's take it to our city, so we can forever remember the day we defeated the Greeks." After a couple of days, there was a holiday celebration, and all Trojans went to the forest to celebrate the holiday. Suddenly, when everyone was away, a little door on the wooden horse was opened and hundreds of Greek soldiers who were hidden inside got out of the horse. They stole all the gold of Troy and quickly escaped. When the Trojans returned, they were surprised to see how they were tricked by the Greeks.
There was a proud elephant who always bullied smaller animals. Every day he would go to the anthill near his home and spray water at the ants. The ants, with their size, could do nothing but cry. And the elephant just laughed and threatened the ants that he would crush them to death. One day, the ants had enough and decided to teach the elephant a lesson. The elephant was sleeping under the tree, not knowing about their plan. The ants went straight into the elephant's trunk and started biting him. At this moment, all the elephant could do was only howling in pain. After this, he realized his mistake and apologized to the ants and all animals he bullied. A tourist was walking through an elephant camp and he spotted that the elephants were not being kept in cages or held by the use of chains. The only thing that was holding them back from escaping the camp was a small piece of rope tied to one of their legs. As the man gazed upon the elephants, he was completely confused as to why the elephants didn't just use their strength to break the rope and escape the camp. They could easily have done so, but instead, they didn't try to do it at all. Since the man wanted to know the answer, he asked an elephant trainer nearby why the elephants were just standing there and never tried to escape. The trainer replied, "When they are very young and much smaller, we use the same rope to tie them, and at that age it's enough to hold them. As they grow up, they start to believe that they cannot escape. Now they believe that the rope can still hold them, so they never try to escape." A greedy mouse saw a basket full of corn. He wanted to eat it. So he made a small hole in the basket. He squeezed in through the hole. He ate a lot of corn. He felt full and was very happy. Then he wanted to come out. He tried to come out through the small hole. He could not. His belly was full. He tried again. But it was of no use. The mouse started crying. A rabbit was passing by. It heard the mouse's cry and asked, "Why are you crying, my friend?" The mouse explained the situation. The rabbit laughed and said, "It is because you ate too much. Wait till your belly shrinks." Later the mouse fell asleep in the basket. The next morning his belly had shrunk. But he wanted to eat some more corn. He had forgotten about getting out of the basket. So he ate the corn and his belly was very big again. After eating, the mouse remembered that he had to escape. But obviously, he could not do it. So he thought that he will go out tomorrow. The next passerby was a cat. He smelt the mouse in the basket. He ate the mouse. There was a king who was very fond of fish, but fish was not available at that time of the year. A fisherman somehow brought him a fish. The gatekeeper stopped him at the gate and said that, "I can allow you get inside, only if you give me half of whatever the king gives you." The fisherman agreed. The king was very happy when he saw the fish. He asked the price of the fish. The fisherman replied, 100 lashes on my back." The king was very surprised. But he ordered for it. When the fisherman had got 50 lashes, he cried, "Stop, I have a partner in this business. Half of the profit will go to him. My partner is the gatekeeper." The king understood the story. The gatekeeper got 50 lashes on his back. He was dismissed. The fisherman got a good reward. For university students didn't study for the exam which was scheduled for the next day, and in the morning they thought of a plan. They made themselves look dirty with dirt and grease, and went to the teacher and said they had gone out to a wedding last night, but on their way back the tire of their car burst, and they had to push the car all the way back. Because of this, they were in no condition to take the exam. The ttsfree thought for a while and said they can have the exam after 3 days. They thanked the teacher and said they will be ready by that time. On the third day the exam began, but the teacher said that, as this was a special test, all students were required to sit in separate classrooms. They all agreed as they had prepared well in the last 3 days. The test consisted of 2 questions with a total of 100 points. First, your name. 1 points. Second, which tire of the car burst that day? 99 points. A, back left, B, back right, C, front left, D, front right.
A shop owner placed a sign above his door that said, "Puppies for sale." A little boy saw the sign and he approached the shop owner and asked the price of the puppies. The store owner replied that they are $30 each. The little boy only had $2, so he asked if he could just look at them. The boy looked at the puppies and saw that one of the puppies was lagging behind. He immediately asked, "What's wrong with that little dog?" The shop owner explained that the veterinarian had examined the dog and had discovered that the dog would always limp. The little boy became excited and said that is the puppy that he wants to buy. The shop owner said, "No, you would not want to buy that dog. But if you really want him, I can give it to you free." The boy became upset and said that, "I don't want you to give him to me free. That little dog is worth just as much money as the other dogs. In fact, I'll give you $2 now, and 50 cents a month until I finish paying the price." The shop owner repeated, "You really don't want to buy this dog. He is never going to be able to run and jump and play with you like the other puppies." After the man said that, the boy reached down and rolled up his pant leg and revealed his crippled leg. He looked up at the shop owner and softly replied, "Actually, I don't run so well myself either, and the little puppy will need someone who understands." One night when a shopkeeper was about to close his shop, a dog came into his shop. The dog was holding a bag in his mouth. Dog went toward shopkeeper to give that bag to him. Shopkeeper understood what dog was trying to do and took the bag. When he opened the bag, saw a list of products and money in the bag, shopkeeper kept money to himself and placed all the items in the bag written on list. Dog picked up the bag and left. Shopkeeper was surprised. He closed his shop and decided to follow the dog. Shopkeeper saw that first dog waited at the bus stop. Soon bus came and dog got into the bus. When bus stopped at some bus stop, the dog got off the bus. Shopkeeper was still following the dog. Then shopkeeper saw that after going some distance, the dog reached a house and knocked on door of the house with its legs. The owner of the dog came out and started yelling at the dog. This shocked the shopkeeper. Shopkeeper went towards to the dog owner and asked him why he is yelling at the dog. The dog owner replied, "The dog disturbed my sleep. Instead, it could have taken the keys of the house with him." A woman was working at a meat distribution factory. One day, when she finished her work, she went into the freezer room, but unfortunately the door locked and she stuck there with no help. Although she screamed and knocked with all her might, most of the workers had already gone, and outside the cold room, it was impossible to hear what was going on inside. 3 hours later, whilst she was at the verge of death, the guard of the factory came and opened the door. She was miraculously saved from dying that day. When the woman later asked the security guard why he had come to open the door that day, his answer was like this: "I've been working in this factory for 10 years, hundreds of workers come and go every day. But you're the only person who greets me in the morning and says goodbye to me every night when leaving after work. many treat me, as if I'm invisible. Actually every day I look forward to your hi and bye, because they remind me that I am also someone. Today when you came in for the work in the morning, you greeted me. But this evening after working hours, I noticed that I had not heard you saying bye. By this, I knew that something had happened. That is why I started searching everywhere for you.